All right, we're back again for another exciting Tax-Exempt Review Committee meeting. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. It's 1 o'clock, and with respect for people's time, we'll try to start on time. And with that, we will start with agenda item number 1, approve Tax-Exempt Review Committee meeting minutes from 11/27/2018. And if you haven't had a chance to review those, if there's any changes or corrections, we'd like to hear those at this time. Otherwise, we will accept a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 2, a 5-year new industry exemption application by CI Sport Incorporated. And it's application for new industry exemption, pages 3 through 8. And Jim, do you want to start us off? And then we'll, Randy, if you want to come up and have a seat at the end with a microphone, that'd be great. Go ahead, Jim.
This is a request from CI Sports for 5-year property tax exemption. They're currently located in the building next to Old Broadway, kind of known as the former Herbst building. Was originally a department store quite a few years ago. They currently employ a little over 100 people. They're proposing to acquire the Gander Mountain building, and that would be both for some initial growth as well as allowing for some future growth. There would be an increase in the number of jobs, and as I've talked to the owner, there'd also be an increase in the complexity of some of the jobs as they automate more. There'd be a higher skill level and higher pay level. The company sells apparel that's imprinted or embroidered really throughout the country. They have to compete against some big companies like Nike and Under Armour, so they need to be as efficient as possible. The company just started with 3 people and now employs over 100. So maybe Randy, you can go over the what your plans are and what your schedule is.
Sure, you just about covered everything, but I'll do it again. Well, I just came back from LA, and on this particular application, when we sent it in, we talked about doing $500,000 worth of new equipment. That's probably going to be somewhere around $1.5 million. There's a lot of technology out there, a lot of improvements to the equipment that we can put in. And what Jim was talking about is being able to take some of the $10 an hour people off those types of jobs where they're cleaning screens and or doing film work, and those jobs are now automated. We can move those people to higher paying positions as well. It's fairly easy for us to add 10 people in the first year, and even to add 30 or 40 is fairly simple when we're out in this area, because we just go to a second shift. And so those are the types of things that we're looking at. This facility, allows us to put in enough equipment, new technology, so that we can move a third of our staff over to that facility, and then start breaking down equipment, bringing it over, and bring over the rest of the staff. So the move is a lot easier for us to do it that way. It also is a big thing. We buy product now from overseas, for us to compete in that particular market. We do work with China, but a lot in Pakistan. So we have buyers and factories over there that we're using. So it is a company that started with just a few people to do some promotional T-shirts for the bars and restaurants that I'm in. But it's become, a company that sells collegiate wear all over the United States. We have about 12 salesmen that sell all over the United States. It's actually 2,200 bookstores. One of the big things that we're doing now is working with large corporate companies. We've been doing Shields collegiate wear for years and years and years, but now we do Amazon and with digital process printing. That happens to be in another building that we own on First Avenue, and so we'll be moving that out there as well. Big corporate companies that we do business with now, we find that there's another market for us doing that, and the types of programs that we can put together for them. So we're very excited about it, and you know, our growth, it was really hard to grow anymore in downtown Fargo, but when you own a building that's paid for, sometimes you don't want to make that move. But we just see that, you know, we've been in downtown Fargo a long time. It's time for us to move. Too many semis coming in, so it's a big move, but we're excited about it.
Can I ask you a couple questions, Randy? You talked about with the new facility, you're going to have more space to add some new equipment,
Right.
and so that's part of the advantage of that. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then also can you talk a little bit about the challenges of where you are located now as far as getting trucks in and out of there?
It's difficult. You know, sometimes we have to have UPS set trucks on the other side of our loading dock, and we own the alley, but we also have given, you know, access for the condos there for ingress and egress, and sometimes we have semis that are blocking that alley as well. But we'll have semis unloading, and we'll have a UPS truck waiting to come in. So it's difficult. The new facility has a loading dock for 2 semis, UPS, and other areas for delivery, which will make shipping and receiving better. You know, right now they have a semi backs up on the street on NP Avenue in order to get in and access our facility. So this will eliminate that.
And just one more, so you don't have to give specifics, but obviously there's other municipalities that would have loved to have your business move there, and I think
Yeah.
you would have gotten incentives from other places if you would have chosen not to stay in Fargo. Is that correct?
They offered, you know, Moorhead did offer, and we've looked at West Fargo, and you know, but you know, we're Fargo based. You know, this is where I live, and so.
So I just wanted to say one more thing. First of all, you've been in downtown Fargo before there was much in downtown Fargo, so
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I do think by us giving incentives to local businesses, they live here, they're going to stay here, versus trying to attract a business, which there's nothing wrong with that from other places. But if you have people that live in Fargo, they want to stay here. They're much more likely, and so I do think that too. And also Randy serves in other capacities on some of our other committees, so thank you for your commitment to our city, and I think this is a great thing. Thanks. Any other questions?
I'd like to echo the thank you for continuing to grow your business and doing it in Fargo. And I just want to ask it because it might be a simple assumption, but can we just assume that the lease that you're doing on the building is longer than the 5 years of the exemption?
Yeah, it really is Global, which is another company of ours that is purchasing the land and the building. The information that came out in the Fargo Forum was not correct. I was confused by it when I read it. So we're buying it and we lease back, and that's what we did here in downtown Fargo. And yeah, you know, it's a big building. I need them in there. You know, I didn't buy that building to let it set. So
Maybe just to clarify, Global Acquisitions, which is Randy and Warren own, will buy the building. They will lease it to the CI Apparel, which they also own.
Go ahead.
Robert Wilson with Cass County, and this may be straying just a little bit off topic, but are there any lessons learned here on a larger scale of repurposing some of these big box stores? And, you know, are you on to something that
well, you know,
others aren't?
I tell you what, I was thinking about it. When I was in LA looking at equipment, and I thought, honestly, nobody else could have bought this property because it was 7 acres, and you know, there's a lot of room for other development on it. There's 350 parking stalls, but I think the challenge for anybody who was in the real estate business is, what do you do with this big building? And for us, yeah, it kind of woke me up and thought, wow, you know, there might be more properties like that, for businesses like mine that will go in there when nobody else can do it. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Mark?
Just wanting to make sure that I'm understanding the request, because they are relocating business. It looks like on the application, if I'm reading it correctly, that we're going to basically, for 5 years, exempt the entire value of the new location, no adjustment for like an existing location. I don't know that that's been done very often, but I know it has been done on occasion. So just maybe, Jim, if you want to clarify specifically what the request is.
You're correct. The request is for the exemption on the entire building. I think this is probably a little unique in a couple of cases. One is we are limiting this to 5 years. They're not asking for something beyond the basic 5 years. Secondly, they're going to continue to own the Herbst building downtown. That would likely be redeveloped, but they're not leaving a space that they wouldn't be, or still paying taxes on. So those continue to pay taxes on the space they have downtown. The long-term use of that, we don't know what it is. I think it'll be more of a downtown-related thing and possibly a Renaissance zone project. But I think those are the unique things there, is that it's just for 5 years, and they're continuing to own their existing building.
Very good. Any other questions? Otherwise, we would accept a motion.
I'll move to approve the application.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Number 3, 5-year new industry exemption application by Prairie Products LLC. Jim?
Has this one been
That's the one that's been withdrawn.
withdrawn?
So we don't continue it, and we don't need to take action, it's just been withdrawn, is that correct?
They're hoping to come back in February.
Okay, so that's just the way they do it.
Yeah,
Okay?
we'll just put it back on the agenda if it's
Okay.
still on in February.
No, that's good. Number 4, final discussion on revisions to Tax-Exempt Review Committee policy and guidelines. 4A, Tax-Exempt Review Committee policy and guidelines. 49 through 80 are the pages for us. Jim, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, these really haven't changed. Probably maybe want to make sure I plan to put these on next Monday's City Commission agenda. Didn't know if you wanted just kind of one last chance to look at it. I know you kind of had that same thing a month ago. We didn't get it on the agenda. The only thing I'll call your attention to that was added kind of at your direction, and it's on page 61. It's under the additional policy and procedure guidelines. There was a question of, well, if someone doesn't meet their job goals, what are the, what are we going to do about it? And so this lays that out, that, there is that reporting requirement. Once they meet the goal, there would be no further reporting. If the goal is not met, that they would have to pay back the incentive prorated, and but that this committee could extend that for up to 2 years if it's determined circumstances, made the achievement of that goal impossible, and then after extending 2 years, determinant of a decrease in the goals, or if you felt it was justified to decrease the incentive, that you would take it to City Commission and hold a hearing on that, so they would be able to, state their case. So we got kind of specific in how we would do this review afterwards. I don't believe this language was in there before.
Very good. Mark, do you have any comments?
Just a question then.
Sure.
And Jim actually brought this up the last time. The third paragraph, the goal has not been met, the recipient must pay back the amount of the incentive granted. It's not giving this group or the City Commission sort of any permissive language. And with Global Electric Motors, this group chose not to apply, I would say, a disincentive at that point, or a clawback provision. So are you thinking that that's sort of what the fourth paragraph does?
Yeah, I think
or-
that's what the fourth paragraph does, is lay out how the procedure for how we're going to do this. So.
Yeah, the third paragraph sounds very definitive.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what you'll do.
And this is just my opinion, I do think it's important that we have the clawback. That's something that I think a lot of people agreed that's very important. But however, there are sometimes extenuating circumstances, business conditions or things like that. So I don't know. I guess I'm interested. What is your viewpoint on it, Mark?
I just think that there should be permissive language in here that allows either this committee or the City Commission to take those extenuating circumstances into consideration.
Should we just-
If the clawback provision, for example, is the one thing that ultimately then is kind of that final nail in the coffin, do you really want to put that business under
Right.
by now, taking away an incentive from them when they're in a financial hardship situation or not.
Do you want to just add at the end of that third paragraph, add a comma, unless extended or revised by the city commission?
I would prefer to see that personally. I'm not a voting member, so.
Or you just move the third paragraph beyond the fourth paragraph, let that be the final solution. Done strong, it says you gotta pay it back, and still, by the way, we give you 2 years to
Combine
work it
paragraph
out.
3 and 4, you're saying, but
Yeah.
flip them around.
Flip 'em
so
around.
Okay,
That makes more sense logically, I think.
I would agree with that, then we don't have a lot
Okay.
of wordsmithing.
you make that change.
Very good comments, Mark. I appreciate that, and that's a good change. I don't think we need to have a formal,
No, I think you had authorized us last time to take this on to city commission.
Okay.
I don't know if you or Bruce had any concern about it being on next Monday?
yep.
Haven't seen the agenda yet, but how are you planning, Jim, on sending that up? There was kind of a nice little bullet summary piece that kind of
I think we'll put together a
Yes,
summary
I really like
release
that.
and
Yeah.
bring some examples on a PowerPoint.
Okay.
I know one of the things that Commissioner Grinberg had asked for was sort of a report on how these TIFs were doing. I don't know that that'll be quite done yet. We'll have it done on most of the TIFs. There's two that we're still, again, we need to probably do some research on. One was at Great Northern Depot, whether or not there was a payment made there that didn't show up, and the other is trying to determine what projects remain in that Section 22 TIF.
Mr. Chairman, and then this was made available for public comment for 60, 90 days?
We had a couple different public comment periods, once before we wrote it, once when it was developed, and so I'll certainly note that. I'd received quite a bit of comments from developers. I probably received a couple phone calls of people that just were concerned about the Block 9 incentives and what was that costing the city. But
Maybe, Jim, if you wouldn't mind, we could have Greg just make sure that this is on the city website, because this is kind of like, we've had plenty of opportunities for
Okay.
public comment, but just so people know, hey, this is our final rendition, and it's going to the city commission. So if you wouldn't mind getting it on the website, just so people can see it, I think that'd be a good step. And to make sure that they know they can come to the commission meeting and offer any comments.
okay, I'll do that.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, just one last note that Jim presented to the Cass County Commission a couple of weeks ago. That was very well received. I don't remember if they had any questions, certainly no critical comments, but I thought it was well received.
Yeah, I think they're understand it a lot better than before how it all works.
Yeah, thank you.
Once again, I want to reiterate what Bruce just said. We've had multiple opportunities for public comment, and I think it's been a good thing. This has gone a lot longer than we had thought, but we had several times where we actually invited developers in to come and get their perspective as well as the public, and so I think it's been good. It's kind of like I don't remember the sign committee, but I volunteered for that, which I'm not the brightest guy, and I thought it was going to be 2 months, and it was 2 years. This is a little bit reminiscent of that, so. But it's a very important thing, and it's actually, I think we've all learned a lot. I think we're a little more familiar with how things are going, so. Thank you for your hard work, Jim. I know you've worked hard on it as well as a lot of the other staff, but I think it's a good thing.
Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the order? Otherwise, that's it for this afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a good rest of January, and if you want some practice shoveling snow, you're welcome at my driveway anytime this afternoon.